Hi guys, this is QAShahin, and in this video we're going to start looking at how to switch windows using WebDriverJS. So we're going to start looking at how to switch windows. We're going to explore how to first of all understand the concept of a window, although that should be straightforward, and then we're going to see how we can use WebDriverJS to actually switch the windows. Naturally, if you want to follow the blog, then here it is. Just go to this link, and this should be in the description below also. If you prefer to just go to the blog and copy paste the code in, then you have that option to do so also. So, switching windows. What does it actually look like, and why would you want to do it? There will be instances where once you're actually automating against a given browser, you may have to click on a link or perform some action on the browser, which opens up another window. And you may have to use your automated test to switch to that window and then do something on that window. It might be to interact with further web elements. You may then have to switch back to the previous window that you are on. So if we take that analogy, you have a driver and you have some sort of window handler, which is basically a manager to help distinguish what window we're currently on and what window we would like to switch to. And the window handler has a handle on all the windows that it currently sees, and it simply gives driver control over a specific window at a time. So the driver may control the parent window, and if you want, you may invoke this handler to switch control to, say, a child window. You would then have the option to switch back to the parent window if you wish to. So let's have a look at how this would actually work. So I'm going to navigate to the testroom.com, and I'm going to navigate to the test web app. And on the web app, I have created this terms window here, which once you click on it, it just opens another window. So let's just try to automate this particular scenario. Now I have already written some code which simply creates an instance of the WebDriver and then builds a driver instance and builds it as a Chrome browser, and then simply uses the driver to navigate to the test room. What I now want to do is click on that terms link on the test room web app. So let's quickly go back to the test room web app, and let's see if there's anything that we can use to identify clicking on the terms link. So if I right click here and just say inspect, and if I have a look, then I can see it actually has an ID called footer_term. So let's just use that to quickly click on the terms link. So I'm going to say driver.find element WebDriver by ID, and it was footer_term, and then I'm going to click on it. Okay, so let's just quickly make sure that this actually works. So I'm going to navigate to the folder, and I'm just going to say node.script. Okay, so it did look like it worked. It just happened very quickly. So we are now at a position where we have opened that window. So what do we do? How do we now actually start to interact with these windows? Well, the way we do it is we invoke this method called getAllWindowHandles. And this actually returns a promise. So if you don't know what a promise is, then refer to an earlier video in this series where I actually talk about promises. And I'm going to say something like get window handles. I'm going to say all handles. So what is happening here? So this method is used to actually get all the current windows that driver can see, that driver has any control of. And because this returns a promise, we're just going to use a then statement to try and capture the objects that are returned as part of this in this function. So why don't we try to first of all see if we can get the title of the current window that we're on. The reason why we would like to do that is because this way we can somewhat try to judge what window we are actually on. So I'm just going to say console log, and I'm going to say, let's say something like parent window, and I'm going to then pass in the value of text in here. Okay, so let's just quickly run this, and we should see this statement. Okay, so it looks like it's printed out parent window zoo adoption home, which is correct because that is the actual title of the tab of the home page for the web app. And we can confirm that by looking here. Okay, so let's go back to the script. So now what we would like to do is actually switch to that new window that we opened. So how do we do that? Well, we can use the driver switch to method, and we can switch to a window. And the way we can do it is to get all the handles that we have, and the handles in this instance is an array because this returns one or more than one window, and we can simply say all handles dot length -1. And what this should now do is this should actually switch to that terms window. Just to confirm that that's actually worked, let's go back to the site and see if there's anything on that terms window we could try to say print out. So I'm going to click on terms, and I'm going to just expand this and right click and see if I can do a quick inspect. And if I have a look here, fortunately there isn't a lot of tags in here. It seems there's only one H1 tag. So I can try to print out this tag here, H1. So I could say something like driver find element WebDriver.by, let's use CSS, and I'm just going to say H1. And what I would like to do is ultimately be able to get the text for that. So for the moment, this is just a heading. So I can now use the heading object that I am returning and try to get the text for that. And let's try to print that out to a console. Before we do that, let's say something like child window is the text value. So what is happening here? At the moment, we are assuming that we have indeed switched to another window. And in this case, we only have two windows open. So we don't really need to handle any magic here in terms of which specific window we want. Naturally, if you have more than two windows, then you would need to elaborate a little bit more on this. But assuming the switch is done, we use the same driver instance. And in this case, we're trying to get the H1 tag as a heading. And then we're just going to try and get the text for that. So let's save this and run this and see what happens. Okay, looks like we had an issue. Let me quickly have a look at the code. So it's saying driver.switch2 is not a method. That is because I misspelled switch. Let's save and run that again. Okay, so now if you have a look, it looks like we were able to first of all print out the parent window, and then we were able to print out the text in H1 of the child window. Great, it looks like we have successfully switched windows. So with the switch done, what if we want to go back to our parent window? Because that's important. You may actually need to go back to your parent window. How can you do that? Well, one way to do that is first of all, save a reference to your parent window. And the way to do that would be to use the driver.getWindow handle. This stores the current window that you are in control of. And we are basically going to take this information and store it in the parent. So once we've done that, see here how we've switched to a child window. We can simply do the same thing again, but this time we can just switch to the parent window. And once this switch is done, just to confirm that we're definitely back on the parent window, let's just try to copy paste this code in. And the assumption is that the value of text in here should be the same value that we get here, because we would have switched to the parent window. So let's save that and run that and see what happens. Okay, so it looks like initially we were on the parent window and we were looking at the tab title. Then we switched to the terms window, which in this instance we're just calling a child window for now. And this actually printed out the terms of the site h1 tag. And then we switched back to the parent window. So it looks like this act of switching windows actually worked. We used the same driver object to switch from one window and back to another window. So what have we learned in this video? So in this video, we have learned how to switch windows. It's important to know how to switch windows simply because you may actually have to do this one day. The code we wrote was very, very basic. You could very easily break this up into separate utility functions, which would better help manage the window that you switch to. Again, really quickly, if you wish to just copy paste the code in, then you can do that by going to the blog link below. Many thanks for watching. I will see you in the next one.